So, Chuck, welcome to the show. Pleasure to have you on. How are you today?
Well, thanks for having me. I'm really excited for that.
Yeah, I'm excited to chat because I feel like your creative endeavor is quite an interesting one and one that probably people assume they know the ins and outs of, but maybe don't. For you, if we go all the way back to the start, when did horror or the darker aspects of either film or books or whatever first come into your life? Can you remember?
The first aspect, I mean, it was part of me since I was a kid. Uh, for my birthdays and Christmas, my grandma would always go to get me some the ugliest figurine she could possibly find. And she was like, if it's ugly, the ugliest it is, the better it is for Chuck. So from there, it was really something that attracted me since I was five or so. And then after I grew up in early 2000s with my in my teens, and I would watch a lot of slashers, and it was like the renaissance or the remakes of the slashers at that time. Like you would have like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Um, they redid Friday the 13th and everything. And I went to see them in the movie theaters, and I think that's where it actually kicked off for me. Um, yeah.
When for you then did because I feel like a lot of us probably have similar things where as a kid, you collect the action figures or you maybe sneak and watch some of the movies you're not supposed to watch, and over time it compounds. But for you then, when did the idea of, making horror or making horror adjacent stuff become I guess a serious reality? It wasn't just like oh, wouldn't it be cool to do this, or wouldn't it be nice to do that?
I mean, I've always been interested into special effects. I want to see practical effects my entire life. And in Montreal, the big hub is visual effects. So I got into the visual effects uh, the, for 10 years. And then now the pandemic hit, and then I kept seeing the subscription for the Stan Winston School of Character Arts, which is just online classes with masters from Hollywood, and they teach you how to do stuff. They teach you how to sculpt, how to mold, how to cast, how to paint. So instead of sitting at home during the pandemic, when I had a lot of free time, I decided that I would pick up the hobby, and then I started sculpting, started painting, and then I ended up starting molding and casting, and I just fell in love with it. I started on my living room table just sculpting with not Play-Doh, but it was not exactly Chavant or oil based clay that I'm using now, or wet clay, but it was pretty basic. And the next thing you know, I'm buying a workbench, and then I'm fully set up, and then get a nice airbrush set, and then it just expands. It used to take just maybe 3 feet in the basement, and now, lucky for me, my wife kind of let me the entire basement for now.
Do you think some of that comes from like from her perspective, does she see actually that this is something that it is more viable than just like because I feel like us as men sometimes we're inclined to like lean into hobbies and we kind of become a bit obsessive. But do you think that other people were able to see pretty quickly that like, oh, maybe this is not just like a
I think
hobby?
I think my wife really saw that I would lit up. It's really the thing that was missing in my life at that point. It was kind of hard because I already had kids at the time, and I was close to my 30s when I first started. And it's the kind of thing that in your 20s you're told that you need to find your vocation, and then you stick to it. kids, the house, and everything. And I feel like the priorities are kind of like piling up, and you forget yourself in that. And I think I just found myself back with all that, and I actually discovered what was my main purpose here.
Was that always in the background for you growing up? I always ask that question, and I always refer to it as like a very Irish or like UK or European thing. Where, I always felt like growing up, I was always into things that were seen as like, not your normal interest, as in I would see other guys and they were like, when I grow up, I want to be like dad. I want to be an electrician. I want to be a plumber, a builder. And I always had like that creative, like, oh, I want to write movies. I want to interview people. I want to talk with people. And everyone was kind of like, yeah, yeah, that's fine. That's cool. But also, get a real job and get a real vocation. Don't do that.
Yeah.
Um, was that something that you ever had to deal with? And if so, was that always in the back of your mind, knowing like that there's something more that I want to do?
Oh, totally. I mean, when I was a teenager going to high school, um, I wanted to be a tattoo artist. Like that was my main goal. And then I would just be in my room and drawing and drawing. And at the time, YouTube was not there yet with all the tutorials that you can find. So I feel like I didn't have the learning tool really to fulfill that dream, and I kind of had to give up in some ways because I didn't see myself good enough for this. My standards are pretty high as well. I don't accept lower than my expectations. and and I think when I found this sculpting, it really it was easy for me, and I really wanted to go with it. But yeah, everybody's like, "Oh, you sure you can make a living out of it?" And I'm like, "Well, maybe there's some that don't, but I'll do my best to make it happen. If that's what makes me happy." And I think I'm lucky enough to have the artist heart, but I also have some business side in me that I think that I can exploit and try to push my art a little bit further and market myself. And
Yeah, is that something that I think that's a lost on a lot of creative people that I see a lot of people who are creatively capable, but then they always come back to me and go, "Oh, you said like I should go for this and it didn't work out," or I told one thing, or I got one interview, or I sent a million emails and one person answered, and it's like there's definitely a degree though of the more I talk to people who have kind of been self-made, there's a degree of yes, you do kind of have to be social media savvy. Yes, you do kind of have to be business savvy. Yes, you do have to be clever with if you make a shit ton of money all at once, you can't just you
spend
have
it all.
to, yeah, you have to be clever. I hear guys that, maybe sell scripts and things like that. And at first it was like, oh, let me just like, wow, I got this money, let me just blow it all. And it's like that idea of, okay, I can't live like that. I need to be clever about how I'm going to go about this to make it a long-term thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Definitely. I mean, I started promoting myself on Instagram, and then when I really see where it started is when I started going to events like vending and markets and doing conventions. There's no real secret to it other than you have to get out. Like if you don't do anything and you just expect people to come to you, even just emails or whatever, it's not going to happen. You need to interact with everyone. You need to take any opportunity that you see. Um, yeah, we're lucky enough to be able to create. If people respond well, it's even better. But you have to get out to promote yourself and work for it. It's not just working on your art; it's also working on yourself and your business and promotion.
For you, you do a lot of commission-based stuff, right?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, yeah.
So when you decide to actually to make something, you've decided to, I see things like the haunted mask and things like that. For you, what decides one over the other about something like that you're actually going to go and make a physical piece and have it like an in stock item?
What do you mean? Sorry. Like,
As in, yeah, as in like, I'm sure you could probably attempt to try your hand at anything that somebody might like. But what, when I see some of the stuff up on Etsy and places like that, how do you decide what you want to make and, put out there without somebody specifically requesting it?
well, I kind of accept pretty much any custom that I receive or custom orders that I receive. Um, I like to challenge myself. If it's something I saw myself refusing some customs. So someone came to me and wanted the president of Lebanon, and I was like, I don't do politics.
Very random.
Like, yeah, really random, and I was not comfortable with any of that. So as long as it's fun and that is something that I see that is a passion for the person that requests it, um, I'm up for it. And from customs, what is fun is that it challenges me because I don't really decide the design, So every design that is requested to me is a little bit different than the previous one that I made. So it's really something interesting, and it broadens my portfolio as well.
This might sound like a ridiculous question, but it's coming from a place of obviously not having that kind of skill. Do you ever get requests for things where you kind of think, "Oh God, this is going to be like very hard"? Like I can already tell that you're extremely creative, but I can't help but think that surely somebody can't just do everything. And I mean, in the sense of, obviously you have to weigh up cost, amount of man hours and things like that. Like I'm sure it's probably not lost on people listening that like it's not going to make sense for you to take a custom on that's going to take you 10 tries, 10 amounts of equipment, because at that point it's diminishing returns. There's no point in doing it.
Yeah, exactly. If I'm not equipped for it, I mean, I tend to say no and refuse it, unfortunately. Um, but it didn't happen to me yet. No one came up to me with something really out there that I couldn't realize myself.
Is it hard, as someone who's into horror and into like creative stuff already, is it hard not to just make shit that you want to just have like in your house?
I do. Well, I mean, I started with only original stuff, and to build my portfolio and stuff. And so I went to Frightmare in the Falls,
Mhm.
in Niagara Falls in Canada, and I didn't sell barely anything. Like I thought it would be a big horror convention that I would sell a lot, and I was really saddened by it in some ways. But then the guys that were there were like, "You need to do IPs, man. Like that's intellectual properties. That's what's working. That's what you're selling. If you want to make it,
Mm.
that's what you're gonna have to make." So that's why I dabbled into that now. I just started it, but I actually like doing IPs. It's challenging because people have strong opinions for their IPs, a strong love for it as well. And if you mess it up, they're gonna tell you.
Is that difficult in the sense of, obviously if you come up with original ideas, you kind of have room to play with whatever. But like you just said, and especially the horror community, we're very particular about, somebody asks for some obscure character from some movie that has a cult following, and it's like they want it to be like,
Exactly the same.
I want this thing to be ripped from the screen.
Yeah. I mean, there's also always lineage you can make. Like I make it my own in some ways. Um, because you already have for IPs. I try to touch IPs that I've not been done or overly done, like the Freddy's and Jasons, and there's a lot already on the market, good ones. So I don't know if I can add to that, but I like doing IPs that are not really touched yet, like the Haunted Mask that I did recently.
Which is for people, if you haven't seen it, it is absolutely fucking unbelievable.
Thank you. Yeah, I think I really hit the home run with it.
Yeah,
Proud
I
of
think
that.
so.
I like
Is
it.
that something in that, not to cut you off, but
Yeah.
before I forget this thought, is that something that I don't know how you feel about this, but you know, when you do work like that and it's like quality work, it's not just like your regurgitated stuff. Is there an opportunity there for you to be contacted by companies to kind of do their work for them, or is that something that you're even open to? Would you rather do your own thing?
No, I'm super open. I mean, I'm open to anything at that point. I know I'm open to film. I'm open to work for. I know there's a lot of mask makers that are just sculpting for companies. They travel to just they travel for a week. Let's say for in Mexico, and they go sculpt like 5 masks for Ghoulish Production or something like that. That's something that I'm always open to, and I think it's exciting as well. It's another art.
Yeah, it's like another avenue you can go down. Is there any particular, uh, as of right now, do you just feel like you're willing to kind of take on any challenge, or do you have a, I guess, a long-term vision of how you would like to see things go? Like you know, I've seen people online say, "Oh, you know, I would love a physical store." And again, I'm one of those people,
Yeah,
but then I understand from your point of view how that brings a huge amount of headaches with, we all say we want things like that, but then maybe the support isn't actually there when there's a physical store and you end up, you know, it has to close down within 12 months and you just can't keep it going.
yeah. I think I'm just riding the wave a little bit and just going gradually. I think my first point was to make sales on Etsy, and then it's happening. So um, starting with that, and then I have like podcast guests. That is amazing. And then I open my YouTube channel. I'm gonna do a little bit of tutorials and dabbles in that. So I'm just trying a little bit of everything, see where it hangs, and go do markets and conventions and be out and open to anything that comes to me. I think if you're open and you look for it, I'm open to anything.
Not
But
to
I
get
don't have a straight vision
off
other
air.
than just making a mask, having fun, and doing
Yeah.
my own thing.
Is there, you know, obviously we don't have to get to into the specifics of it, but is there a strange anxiety or worry? I feel like a lot of people that are in creative industries, you always have that financial aspect sitting in the back of your head of like, at what point do I maybe need to take a project that I maybe don't care for as much, or do I need to switch lanes into what seems more commercial, but then also having that feeling of being like, I just want to be me and do my own thing?
I think it all depends on where you're at, but at the end of the day, you need to eat, you need to pay the mortgage. I have kids, I have family to support as well. My wife is supporting as well, obviously, but I need to do my part too. So yes, I want to do my own thing, but at the same time, there are certain things that you have to do just to make it afloat, or for you to be able to make your own thing. So it's a hard balance, because you don't want to start doing, like, for example, if I did a Vicky mask, and then for Victoria A's from Terrifier, and then from like 2 weeks I had orders only that, and it just wouldn't stop, and I was like, is that really what I want to do? Like always the same thing, and it just changes. So when I get in that space, and I still make money of it, and I was still doing the things that I wanted to do, but I didn't stop producing it.
Would you say that having a supportive partner is key for anybody who's in the kind of creative space? Because it can be quite, I think it can be quite chaotic and kind of all over the place. It's not your every day is not the same, every week, every month, financially, mentally, spiritually, emotionally. Would you say that's key to have somebody beside you who kind of understands that journey?
Oh, totally. I mean, I think it's crucial because if my wife didn't understand and be proud of me and support me on a regular basis, I don't think I would be able to make that happen. You really need your support because otherwise, I would be flipping burgers at the.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, like, it's like, it's fine if that's what people wanna do, but for some of us, the idea of that is just, like, soul destroying,
Mm,
especially when you have that thing, like you said, in the back of your mind that "This is what I want to be here for, or this is what I want to do before I'm gone." Um, do you have a hard time switching off that creative brain? Like you mentioned, having kids, a wife, you've got a house, you've got cars, you've got family, you've got this, you've got that. Is it difficult at times to, like, as much as I say I like, "Oh, I can't wait to go catch a movie or maybe go get some nice food and get a drink and just chill," I still feel like that somewhere in the back of my mind, the machine is still whirring and I can't just turn it off.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it also it takes a lot of time in the days that catching a movie is a little bit harder than it used to be. Even well, especially with kids too. But I'm just always busy now to do so. But yeah, it's hard to disconnect even when you're outside the house.
What does a we don't well, again, we don't have to get into, like, the every little nook and cranny, but what does, I guess, an average day for you look like now? Because I get so many different answers. Some people say, "Well, I take care of all the other stuff during the day, and then I stay up all night and try and work on my stuff." Some people say, "Oh, I get up at 4 a.m. and I try to get, like, 4 hours in before I have to bring the kids to school." How do you structure your day and your time for, I guess, everybody's benefit, for you creatively, business-wise, for your family, happiness, all that kind of stuff?
I think it's any time that I have free time. It's nights, some days, and during weekends too. Sometimes I have to add some work to it. But yeah, especially when starting getting busy, it's hard to make sometimes for it, but you just have to to find the time. And as soon as I have a free time, I'll that's what I'm doing.
What do you think it is about the horror community that, um, makes us, like, way more passionate about collecting or, wanting some of this stuff? I'm sure you've had all sorts of requests and questions asked about, like, "Could you make this? Could you make that?" Why do you think, because I feel like out of all the different genres, horror is the one, even more than I would say sci-fi and stuff like that, where the community is kind of obsessive about collections and having, like, that unique piece and having that thing. What do you think that is?
I think it has to be with emotions and connections. Like horror is attached to emotions compared to sci-fi in my
Mhm.
personal life. I mean, or taste. Um, and I think we want something that is tangible that we can feel, smell, see, 360. Um, and it's also all characters are memorable. We have it in our heads. We see it on screen. We relate to certain aspect of it, and then we just want to connect even more to it, and then we have it physically. We own it. We have it in our space. You see it on a daily basis. And also, I think just the creativity in the horror community is huge. It's the appreciation of art itself at some point.
Yeah, yeah. There's definitely because even I feel like I don't know, like obviously you can see some of it here behind me, but like it's
Pretty
weird.
impressive collection.
Yeah, I feel like I'm like trying to like create some sort of like a museum or something like that. And I'm
Right.
like, yeah, and I'm like, it kind of just for me in a way because a lot of times, there's a lot of people that I spend time with that maybe either aren't into horror or at all, or maybe not really into movies and stuff. And then I show them this, and they're like, "Dude, what's wrong with you? You could have had a new car. Why are you doing this?" Now, I will say now that I've gotten a little bit older, I'm like, maybe I should downsize and just have some of the really cool stuff and kind of get rid of a lot of that generic. I used to buy everything just to have it.
Yeah.
And I feel like I've gone kind of more into what it is you do, where I
Yeah.
would rather like that kind of one of one
Yeah.
unique piece, artist interpretation of something than have, your generic go to Walmart and just buy the same figure that everybody else
Yeah.
buys.
Yeah. No. And I think it's really important to have things for the horror community or horror fans to have unique pieces. Um, I mean, in my own collection, I sometimes there's people coming in my house and they're like, "Oh, what is that?" And I always have a story about
Yeah,
every piece that I have. It's not just like, "Oh, I bought it at Walmart." You know,
yeah.
I think it adds to the lore of that collector's piece or something like that. It makes it a little bit more special. Some things that not everybody has.
You mentioned having like your own kind of collection. What do you collect? Is there anything specific that you collect? And if so, do you have like your holy grail piece in your collection?
I think my holy grail piece is I strangely don't collect masks that much.
Okay.
I have one coming up that I bought from a cool artist that I love. Um, but other than that, I have two paintings from Terry Wolfinger. I think that's my pride possession. One of Dracula, Bela Lugosi, and then the creature from the Black Lagoon. They're uh, I think the creature is 1 out of 50, and they come with like
Yeah.
a great frame. And I think that Bela Lugosi is 2 out of 50 as well. So yeah, I worked with a guy that was nice enough to sell. He was selling his collection, and he sold them to me. Really appreciated it.
Do you have like a list of things that you would love to create? Um, I guess the question I'm asking is there a specific piece you yourself are like, I have to make, my interpretation of, I don't know, whatever it might be. Is there one that sits atop that list?
Yes, I have a big project in the top of my head. I mean, making a monster suit would always be really cool. Um, if I ever have the opportunity to do that, I will definitely jump on it. I mean, it's any monster maker dream come true kind of thing. It's a big project, but I feel like if I get it, I'll be like, oh fuck, okay,
Mm,
I'll figure it out and make it happen. Um, but for myself as well, I have one project that I really want to do, but it's a little bit of a big, bigger thing than I can shoot for now. I think I like the big head, hog head in Harry
mhm.
Potter,
Oh yeah.
and then in the tavern, I just want that like on my wall. It's just that big hog head, just mean,
You know
slimy.
what?
I don't know.
People listening are going to be like, because obviously I know what you just said, like it's a huge undertaking. It's not as simple as just making it, but
Yeah,
I would love to, and I'm sure everybody else listening feels like this. I would love to have the skill and the knowledge to know that when the time is right, I will actually be able to put some time aside, and eventually I don't need to rely on anybody else per se. I can just make this myself.
it is so satisfying.
Yeah,
It's something that I never had before, and I think that's what I. It's funny that you mentioned it because it's one of my favorite things in making monsters. I can do whatever I want. It's I make it from nothing, from a bag of clay until the finished painted product. And I think that is, I was always admiring people that were doing that. And I still admire like someone that can build a cabinet, like a wood cabinet.
yeah,
That's
yeah, yeah.
fantastic and it's genius. I like things that are handmade a lot. And I have a lot of respect for people that can achieve something from nothing.
Did you even surprise yourself when you started down this journey? Like, I feel, just from the way you've kind of told how everything came about, I can't help but believe maybe there was a point where maybe you sat back in the chair and went, wow, I literally created this from, like you just said, from nothing. This didn't exist, and now it looks like this, and it looks like it's been ripped right from a movie or right from a screen.
Yeah, it's wild. It is really wild. Like the first time that you actually realize that. Um, but I think I'm always moving forward. So I surprisingly didn't have that in one go kind of thing. Like my first mask, I don't think I really thought that through yet.
Yeah, yeah.
I think maybe now when I look back or when I look at my work, I'm like, yeah, I kind of it is cool. I made that, but I don't think I ever had a realization. Maybe when people were actually responding positively to my work, I was like, oh, I can actually connect with people from what I made, which is wild to me.
Do you struggle with imposter syndrome or anything like that? Because I feel like no matter how skillful, how long people do stuff, I've had some conversations with people that I never would have said have any kind of, doubts or maybe like second guess a decision they made or their work. And so many of them come back and go, oh, that never goes away. But it's like a healthy little bit of nervousness about, well, maybe I'm not so good, or maybe that was the wrong choice, or I zigged when I should have zagged. Is that something that you kind of contend with?
Yeah, I think like you said, it's healthy to have that, and it's okay because if you come in cocky and thinking that you're the shit, you're first of all, people are not gonna like you, and your connections, you're not gonna make them. So I think being humble is a big part of it. You need to be humble and just and especially I have such a high standard for myself, and I'm not even there yet. I looked at other artists that I been following for a while and I love it, and they're my example and then my like what I'm trying to work towards. And yeah, I'm not there yet. And then like I'm gonna go to Mask Fest this year as a vendor in Cincinnati in the United States. And when I signed up, I was like, am I fit for that? Like, because here in Canada, we're not a lot doing masks like that. So when I go to an event, I'm either the only one or we're two or three. Like we're a handful.
Yeah.
So I'm always like a little bit special. And then going to an event that is only what I do, it's nerve wracking. Like, do I fit in that? I don't know. But I think it's healthy and I got picked for it. So I'm just going for it too.
Because that's a pretty big one, right? And like the mask community is huge. You have House of Masks and things like that,
Yeah.
and like there's this huge, I suppose, global following for masks, mask makers,
It's funny
original
'cause
ideas.
it's big worldwide, but it's also a small community. Like everybody at the end knows each other. Every artist know whose artist is, and it goes even for like, oh, that mask is made by that person. It's not just, oh, it's a mask. Like everybody knows where it comes from and who made it and produced by what. Uh, and there's a lot of also vintage collectors, and it's a really cool world that needs to be, I think, a little bit more brought up to light, because it really shows the handcraft of man and woman, I think.
When you go to Mask Fest later this year, what's the game plan? What's the have you got anything in your mind? Are you just gonna let whatever happens happen? Are you gonna bring specific pieces? Are you gonna create pieces especially for the event?
Well, I will need to ship my stuff to the States.
Which is a disaster, probably.
Yeah, probably. So I'll need to kind of start already on it. But I think I'm gonna bring a few selections, like a instead of bringing everything, I'll just bring best of what I think will work a little bit better with collectors. I was thinking about a special piece for Mass Fest. I don't know if I'll be having the time for that, but it's my first year, so I'll just go and try to enjoy the event, the 3 day event, and meet with a lot of other mask makers that I've been talking for years now and never met. And I think it's going to be a huge party.
How important is that aspect of of something like this? The networking, the putting yourself out there, having conversations, maybe offering advice or help, or taking advice or help from somebody.
Oh, super important. I think it's super important, especially in the mass community, because it's so small that you need to make the good connections and connect with the community. And the community is so nice. Like everybody is so nice. If you have questions or anything, you can go see pretty much anyone, and you can ask like, "Oh, how did you make that?" Or "How should I glue my hair?" Or "What do you use for your shiny eyeballs?" And everybody's sharing. There's no gatekeeping in the mass community, and I think it's a beautiful thing, because we don't. There's no competition at that point. It's everybody works together. And I was talking to one of my friends, and he's like, "Well, I think the mass community is like this because it's all based on talent.
Yeah.
So it's not something that anyone can pick and do and make it look good. You need practice, you need time, you need a certain talent or creativity. If you don't have it and you know how to make it, I mean, your product is not going to be great. So I think the gatekeeping is not a thing, because it's based on talent as well and on quality of your work.
Do you have an all-time favorite horror movie monster or creature?
Um, I will go with basic. I'm a huge fan of Rick Baker,
Mhm.
and I think I would go with the American Werewolf in London.
I feel like that's probably at the top of most people's
Yeah,
list.
I just the sculpt is amazing, the paint is amazing, the teeth are just gnarly, and the hair work is impeccable. Like it's just like a perfect sculpt creature design. So I would say that, and Frankenstein as
Mm,
well is one of my favorite, because it's so recognizable,
yeah.
and so simplistic at the same time, but iconic.
Do you have comfort horror movies that you find yourself, I don't know, maybe if you're working on a piece or something, that maybe you stick it on in the background every now and again, and they're on repeat?
Um, my favorite are most comforting ones are probably the Halloween themes, like trick or treats. I
Yeah,
just love it. I love to have the feel of fall and the leaves crackling under your feet. I think that's really comforting to me. Like I am such a fan of Halloween, the holiday. Like and having kids now, I mean,
yeah,
I'm having that same feeling again, and it's really amazing. It's something that warms my heart.
same,
Just
and
thinking about it, like it's crazy, but there's just an old ambiance on that night, especially that is just not recreated anywhere else. And
it's
that's why.
crazy as well because obviously from being on this side of the world, it's taken us. We would always see stuff from the States, from Canada, from all these places,
Mhm.
and that for me was always what encapsulated Halloween, what Halloween is supposed to look like. Um, and it never really looked like that over here so much. We had like our own version, and it's only now, which is crazy to say, at the start of 2025, that I've noticed that
There's
things,
like a shift.
yeah, kind of. I would say like it's just probably sounds so dumb, but what you guys had been experiencing, let's say all through like the 90s and early 2000s, is the vibe that we have started to get here now in the last maybe 3 4 years with like Halloween attractions, haunt attractions, how trick-or-treating is, how many people get involved in like maybe doing their yard up and like making a bit of an effort. We've kind of caught on like, I don't know, like 15 20 years later.
I mean, if you say that was the peak of Halloween, I think here it's changing. I think it's less about the kids and trick or treating anymore. It's more, especially in the States, it's like um, a lot of haunts. Like this, the whole season is. It starts now. It starts in August. It's a season. Like it starts in August and then ends in early November, and that's a spooky season here. I don't think it's Halloween night as much anymore here.
Yeah, yeah, that
But with the kids, obviously, it makes it special. The only thing is now during that spooky season, I'm so busy making masks and going to events because all the horror and Halloween events are all
in that.
crammed into 2 months. And then I'm like, fuck, I didn't enjoy the spooky season at all. Like this year, I'm so booked. We're every year we're going to Halloween Horror Nights in the Universal Studio Orlando.
Oh, same,
Oh, you too.
yeah,
Nice. Have you
yeah.
been for a long time?
Since 2013 was my first year.
Wow. Okay, so you're a veteran.
I became like a little bit obsessive and then discovered other haunts through that.
Yes.
And it's just, I was going to actually ask you that question. Are you a haunt guy? Is that something you're interested in on I guess, on a fan level? And then also, is that a sub industry that you would like to work in?
Yeah. I mean, we discovered I was always really scared of haunted houses and haunts. So I never really went for it. For years, I followed Halloween Horror Nights through
Yeah.
YouTube,
Yep.
and one year we went to Universal. Um, I think it was like the week after Halloween Horror Nights ended, and everything was still a little bit decorated. You still had like a tribute store and stuff. And we went in, and I was like, fuck, we need to come back for Halloween Horror Nights. And then the next year, we were back for Halloween Horror Nights for our first year. And then since then, I was like, okay, like we need to do that every year.
It's a strange thing, right? Isn't it? Because people ask me, they're like, you fly from Ireland to Orlando on a 9.5 hour flight every
Yeah.
year to do that. And then people say, well, isn't it just the same thing every year? It's just Halloween at Universal. I'm like, you have no
No,
idea. You have no.
no. There's a story behind everything. There's Easter eggs. It's if you're into it, like I am, there's a lot of other shit to dig in.
Yeah, they really make it worthwhile. And so is that something that you would like? Would you like to I don't know, lend your skills to the haunt industry or
Oh,
be involved in
totally.
that? Yeah.
Definitely. It's something like you said earlier, like where you see yourself moving forward. And I think that's one of the things that I want to dabble into. I think that you have like a certain freedom in the creativity as well. And it's all a collective in general for Hans. And yeah, it's something special that I feel like if you're not experiencing it, you don't really know what you're missing.
Yeah, 100%. And in what capacity would you like to be involved? Like, would you like to, um, I don't know, come on as like a creative and create all the characters and then do the costumes and the masks, or like, would you like to do it?
I mean, creative would be cool. Just creating the masks, that would be amazing as well. Just sculpting for it and um, yeah, bring it to life, like from a from a design itself that someone made, and just make it happen. I would love that.
Is that something? Because I've talked to multiple people actually who, who ended up getting jobs in Universal, working in the art department, things like that. Is that something that you would be open to? Like, let's say you got the call and they said, you know, can you come and work for, I don't know, 6 weeks, 8 weeks sculpting?
Oh,
Would
definitely.
you?
It's funny because it's something that my wife and I have been talking about. We're like, okay, so if it ever comes up, what do we do? And I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, we're not. And my wife is on board with it. Um, we're we're going for it. Yeah,
Yeah, like
definitely.
too good of
It's a no brainer. I
yeah.
mean, if I get the call, I'm like, I want to play the next day. You know.
Are those things that you because I'm not sure of like the inner workings of how it works. Do you have to like try and get yourself into those conversations? Do you actively seek out people involved in different projects and kind of I don't know, let yourself be known, like, hey guys, I'm
I have no idea. I have no idea. I didn't look into that yet. I know that I've done a sculpt, the lobotomy mask that you can see on my Instagram or Etsy shop. Was heavily inspired by a character that I saw at last year events. Was in the Mr. Tree Sweet Factory.
yeah.
Um, the character is named Taffy,
Hmm.
and the guy that one guy was like, "Oh, really nice sculpt. I like it." And then I saw that he was working at Universal Studio for HHN, and I wrote to him. I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna like post something, and I want to credit the original because it's so close to each other that I still want to credit the
Yeah.
original sculptor and stuff. Do you know who it is?" And he was like, "Yes, that would be me." And I was like super, a little bit starstruck for some reason
Yeah,
there.
it's like, I see what you mean about it being a small world, and I feel like the horror community in
Yeah,
general, like if you bring the haunt industry, the mask industry, everything within the
yeah,
bigger circle of horror is actually quite, for as massive as it is and as mainstream as it can be, it's actually quite small. The amount of times that somebody says something and I'm like, oh yeah, I also done that thing, or I know that person, or I was at
yeah,
that event, and even though we're worlds apart, it's like everyone kind
yeah.
of crosses over.
Yeah, it's really personal at the end,
Yeah.
and I think we're just one big family.
Okay, I have a couple of quick fire questions I want to
Yes.
throw at you before I let you go.
Okay, let's try this.
Um, so we've asked about, comfort horror films and things like that. Do you have a favorite movie? If you could only watch one horror movie ever again, is there one that sits atop the list, or even a few? Is there some that come to mind as like that would have to be on the list?
Frankenstein, Dracula, and the original Halloween.
Those are pretty good answers, to be fair.
They're classics, but I mean they're classics for a reason.
Yeah. Is there a grail piece that you obviously you mentioned the things that you do have, but is there anything that you would love to have, or you would love to acquire from somebody that you've seen out there that you don't yet have?
That big werewolf, American Werewolf in London, I think made for Magi effects.
Yeah.
It's just I think Joe Rogan has it.
I was literally going to say, I always see Joe Rogan post his dog with that, and I'm like,
yeah,
oh, thanks.
I want that piece.
Yeah, I think we all kind of would like
Yeah.
that. If you could, if you were to get a job working on a reboot or a remake of an existing IP, and they wanted to bring you in to kind of, I don't know, redesign or reimagine the character, is there any particular character IP, you know, Freddy, Jason, whoever, that you know you would like to give maybe a different interpretation of?
Oh, that's a tough question.
Feels like all of the above.
Yeah. I would say maybe Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Oh, nice.
Like
Nice.
Yeah, I've never done a skin mask, and I think doing something that has the essence of the original, but bring it a little bit modernized can be challenging. And
Yeah. Yeah, I absolutely love that 2003 remake so much.
I know, me too. The mask was phenomenal. The design was
so good. It's so good. Is that something that you'd be willing to make, actually?
Probably, yeah.
That's something that I've been like
definitely
looking for the right person to like make me.
That was one of my first masks that I bought as a collector. I don't have it anymore, but it was like a trick or treat or something.
Yeah, I have. There's a trick or treat one, and then there's this one down here. Now it's from that movie, but it actually looks nothing like.
Oh, really?
Yeah, when you see it, it's like
from here it looks like it. I mean, you recognize it.
It's I don't know, it's like rubies or something like that.
Okay, yeah.
It was brought out around the time, but if you look at that and the trick or treat mask beside each other, this one for some reason looks infinitely different than the other one, because they sculpted the teeth out as well, so it was a little bit weird looking. Where can people support you, or what would you you know, if you could ask the audience to support you in some way or follow you somewhere, is there anywhere in particular you would rather them go to?
Yeah, I mean, you can follow me on Instagram. I'm now on YouTube as Chuck's Curiosities. Instagram, it is Chuck McDuff. And also I have my Etsy shop. I have merch, masks, anything you want. Come see me at events. I announce them on my Instagram pages. Yeah, anything, a like, a follow, a sell, whatever is supporting me, I appreciate it.
For everybody listening, whether you're listening to audio only or video, all the links to Chuck stuff will be down below in all the descriptions wherever you're listening to this. Final question then today is, why horror, and what does it mean to you?
Why horror? Because it brings an emotion. I think having horror in your life, and it's just creature work and disgusting things, it just attracts my eyes. I think it's just, I was born like that.
I love when I ask this question, because no matter how many times I ask it, I always get a different answer, but they're always within the same sphere,
the same realm.
Yeah, you can kind of tie them all together, but everybody gives a completely different answer at the same time, which I love. Chuck, it's been great to chat. I would love to do this again down the line, maybe when you've got some more stuff coming up, maybe when you're announcing that you're going to be like the head art director for Halloween Horror Nights.
From HHN. God.
But like I said, everybody listening, all the links to Chuck stuff are down below in the description. We would appreciate any subscriber, follower, share, anything like that. Like I said, it's been a pleasure. It's been great to chat. And
thanks for having me. I really appreciate you reaching out to me.
And I wish you all the best. Thanks, man.
Thanks.